Hey guys, there is a bunch of people backstage that are waiting to come in. So let's bring Kevin in first. Hey Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, what are you doing? Not a lot. I'm a bot, not a lot.
So we're moving real fast here. So Matt Cully's on now. Hey Matt Cully.
What's up, guys? How's it hanging?
All right, and our friend Legion Vapes, he's popping in.
Hey, what's up?
And we're testing the boundaries and the limits of this software right now because Paul Blameyer is also here. Boom.
Oh Lord.
And there's Paul. So everybody's here. Everybody. It hasn't crashed yet. So let's hope it works. So for everybody that's just joining us and trickling in, I think everybody knows Matt Cully, the incomparable, the kindest spoken of the vape people that I know.
I don't know about that.
He's going to be in very sharp relief with Paul, who is one of the hardest language people that I know. And Legion Vapes, I just met him. Hi. So, well, Kevin, everybody knows Kevin. So, Matt Cully, you're in Montana, and we know that there's a lot of stuff going on all over. I talked about Netherlands is proposing stuff. Obviously, Australia's proposing stuff. California's on the docket too. There's something going on. There's legislation in the assembly in California. There's just a lot of stuff going on. But Montana is one of those places that's real quiet. Nobody really talks much about it because, I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that live there. I mean, population-wise, it's not very densely populated, but we got to stand up for the vapors in Montana, and just so happens that Matt lives there.
All the New Yorkers and Californians and Washingtonians are moving here right now.
Well,
there's a real estate. Seriously, there's a real estate shortage. This is like one of the few places where prices are going up right now. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, the COVID thing is really serious. I mean, I live in Texas, and where I live in Texas has been very mild during the whole thing. I think we had 3 deaths so far. Well, up until about 4 weeks ago, we only had 3 deaths. I think it was less than like 120 total positives. And then in the last 4 weeks, we've gone up to I think it's up to 30 deaths now. And we've had almost over 1,000 positives. And it's just climbing. I don't want to. So the COVID thing is, I've been on this show. We've talked about it. I'm very serious about it. I know there's a lot of people that think it's a conspiracy and that it's not nearly as bad as it's worse than what those people think. It may not be the worst thing, period. But yeah, our numbers have been climbing pretty steadily here in Texas.
Yeah, I saw that earlier this week. Texas is getting nuts again.
Yeah, I mean, we're always a little nuts here, but it's not
COVID cases. Yeah, you guys are always nuts, but
yeah, we're always a little bit nuts. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's driving. Maybe that's driving people from New York and California to Montana.
I think it is. I mean, we've always had that trickle of city. I'm from Seattle. Like we've always had the trickle for as long as I've lived here, but like this year has gotten nuts. I mean, and people are coming here just to escape it. Like the Airbnb, what was it, like 150% more Airbnb bookings in the first quarter of the year? It was something crazy like that here, to where like the government had to start telling people not to come because we didn't have enough stuff in our grocery stores and infrastructure to handle.
We're gonna run out of toilet paper.
Yeah.
So what's
toilet paper for a while?
What's going on in Montana for the vaping stuff? I mean, I know that I saw something and I sent you a link like a week ago about it, and you got more detail on that?
Yeah, basically the health department proposed a permanent ban on flavors. And so it's all kind of like how the FDA does it. It's a proposed rule. Then they have to do a hearing, which is going to be a virtual hearing next month. And then at that point, they'll finalize. So I'm sure they already, are planning on finalizing it. They've had kind of a hard on for vaping ever since the Valley thing. They at the governor's direction, did the temporary ban, and then there was a lawsuit, and there was an injunction for a while, and so it almost seems like spiteful at this point, to go after it. But the thing in Montana, the problem is that the legislature only meets every other year, and so when they're not in session, some of the government agencies can really go hard on some stuff. And, Bullock and his administration are going to be gone in November. So I think they're just kind of like, let's just fucking go for it and do whatever the hell we can right now. Now, whether or not it's legal, we'll see. I'm assuming if it goes through, there will be lawsuits. And there is some oversight. There's an interim health committee of 10 representatives and senators, but it's 50-50 Democrat and Republican. And so those are the people that I've really been working on. They would need 6 out of 10 votes to suspend it. But they can't do anything until it got finalized. So like, let's say the health department finalizes it, then the health committee could basically suspend the rule for like 1 month at a time. But really, they'd only need to do it until, there's a good chance that Gianforte, who's a Republican, gets in office, this fall as our governor. And so if that happens, they'd really only need to suspend it until then, because I'm sure at that point his administration would table it. That's not really their style.
I'm going to knock on wood right now.
Yeah. So, but we'll see it right now. The big thing is to even get 6 out of the 10 people from that health committee. Because like I said, it's 50-50 Democrat and Republican. And I think some of the Democrats don't really like it either. I've had a harder time getting some of them to talk to me, but I think some of them don't necessarily like it. But also, is it something you want to spend political capital on? Like being being the sole Democrat that votes against helping the children. You know how it can be framed. And so that's the problem sometimes with these vape regulations is you might find a politician that doesn't like it, but do they really want to put their neck out there for you? When still, bottom line is polling, when the general public is polled, majority think vaping's bad and, aren't necessarily super against things like flavor bans and stuff like that.
Well, and I was talking to Legion before everybody came in earlier, and he's a Canadian that lives in Australia. But I was trying to explain to him, like here in Texas, Austin is this little section of liberal right in the middle, surrounded by all the, the conservative part of Texas. There's this one little section of blue, but even the liberals that live in Texas are not the same liberals that live in other places. And I would almost imagine Montana's the same way. I was telling the story about going to a gun range in Austin with some legislators, and in the next booth were these, and I'm not trying to be offensive here, but these hippies. These were people with colored hair and cornrows, and they were wearing quintessential sort of stereotypical hippie clothes, colorful, and they're over there shooting their AR-15s. So
there's a pretty big section of people on the left, whether it be progressives, socialists, liberals, moderates, that are still pro Second Amendment. They don't pop their heads up very often, but there's definitely a gun rights crowd in that camp as well. But yeah, it's not the Democratic Party's issue, so it's not something that many know about.
Yeah, no. So I imagine that some of the people that are, and we always know that local politics and even on the state level politics, the party division is not nearly the same. It's not exactly the same as it is on a national level. There's a lot of people that are Democrats that are, if you start talking about issue specific things, that they do fall more on the right, and there's some Republicans that fall on the left in certain things too. There are there's pro-choice Republicans, and there's probably pro-life Democrats.
Yeah, it tends to be a little less polarizing on the, in the local level as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's not as big of a divide there, and it's on a national level, it's like it's getting, these fires are getting lit all the time, and like there's all this constant mudslinging. But locally, I mean, they work together and they're friends and whatnot. So I mean, as far as Montana goes, we'll see. That's right now, like the targets really should be that health committee. There's also an economic committee that could potentially do something. And obviously, if anyone is in Montana, you want to be at the virtual hearing, which I think is July 15th or 16th. I know CASA in their call to action, I believe, put a link to it. So,
yeah,
I'm guessing how these things go. Usually the hearings are just a formality, but still it's good to go voice your opinion. And there might be some of the politicians, that in the House and Senate here that are going to be in on it and watching as well. And maybe it'll help push some of them into trying to suspend it.
Hey, just wanted to say, hey, Julie Wassner. Julie decided to pop in and say hello.
Yay.
Hi, Julie.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, and Nick is in the room. Let's not forget that SB 810 has been transmitted to the governor's desk, and you guys need to be following Floor Smoke Free on Twitter. There's a lot of calls to action on CASA about all of these different things. All of those, I mean, you get all of your attention to all of those places. But I just threw all of our Twitters on the screen. It's on the scroll right now. So if you're on Twitter, if you're wanting to learn how to use Twitter, Kevin's a good resource for that. Get on Twitter and follow us, and just retweet our stuff. If you can't think of anything else, that retweet button is very important. So yeah. So other than, I mean, like you said, targeting those, what did you say, 10 people in that one select committee are the ones that we really need to focus on in Montana. Is that kind of what you're...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're a resident here, you should be talking to your local politicians as well, which I've done. And, a big portion of them don't like it, but they can only do so much. It really comes down to that, they can kind of make a stink, but it really comes down to that. They're not going to like come back for a special session to try to stop this. They could do that, but like they're just not going to. And so the big target needs to be that health committee. And if that doesn't work out, like I said, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this could play out in court. I mean, there was an injunction from the last lawsuit, just, on economic grounds. And that was, their reasoning for that at the time was an emergency, health emergency situation. So it seems like, at that point, everything was foggy with E-Valley, even though we knew what it was about. But like the, general public, everything was kind of foggy with E-Valley. So, they had that kind of footing at the time to try to do that. But I don't know what their, legal footing is here to try to say that this is, other than the teen epidemic, to, say that this is some kind of a health emergency. I mean, when you can point out Montana numbers where there's more teens that are drinking per month, and obviously way more teens that are drinking per week. I mean, there's already been data on that. So how they can justify that in court as using their, emergency authority to do some kind of permanent ban is nuts.
I mean, we've already seen them weaponize the whole teen vaping epidemic and the E-Valley scare. I mean, even it has exported from the United States, and during all this Australia stuff, Greg Hunt has been he's been like quoting all of this E-Valley stuff as justification to get rid of nicotine in Australia. So people need to kind of understand that. I mean, what happens here is being weaponized in other places. And even though we've refuted it, CDC has kind of mutely, but in very small words in the bottom of a page, did everything that they needed to do to say that it was, vitamin E acetate in THC cartridges down here, but in the headline it still says, vaping related lung illness in big, huge words.
Yeah, damage is done already.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy that even though we have the facts, that the politicians, I mean, even in Montana, like you said, they're gonna use the E-Valley thing. They're gonna use the youth epidemic thing, even though the numbers don't bear that out. The new numbers that just came out last week from the CDC's statistics people showed that the percentage is decreased of youth.
Yeah, and I mean, it's shocking here in Montana when, we have our COVID cases are on the rise again as well. I mean, it's still not bad like it is in, Texas or Florida, but I mean, we're back to like, peak numbers per day that we were at back a couple months ago. And so it's shocking that like the health department is going to waste the time, effort, and taxpayer money to try to do something like this. But at the same time, it's like, I think it's one of those things where they think they can get away with it because
while their attention is over here, let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, they're all going to be gone at the end of this year because there's the Bullock is going to be out of office. And so, it's just kind of like, let's just do some passion piece stuff and see what we can get away with these last few months.
Hey, Kevin, you've been kind of mute. You're allowed to talk.
I'm mute on purpose.
Well, I mean, you're the best questioner. So ask Matt some questions.
Ask Matt some questions. Are your lips really that small? It's bugging the hell out of me.
It's editing.
It's editing. I've heard this for a long time. Is there a chance, I guess is my question for Montana?
I think the best chance is either that health committee or a lawsuit. And if, I have no idea how this is all going to play out, but it's not like the vape industry is super powerful here in Montana, and it's not like big tobacco is really going to be fighting this one all that much either. Right. And so, maybe some of them will, because their hope is to get some flavored products through PMTA, but I don't know. They already can't sell their flavored pods in C-stores. So, it's going to be hard to get that one Democrat, I think, but we'll see. I think the lawsuit would be the better bet if I was, to guess, but you just never know.
And the thing about lawsuits is they're not free.
Well, yeah, and who's going to pay for it? I don't know.
I mean, you just said the industry is not very big in Montana. Somebody's got to pay for that, and that's also. I mean, it's hard. I can't ever like bank on stuff like that and just assume that it's going to be done, because I'm just like a real world person. I'm like, well, somebody's got to pay for it. Who's going to unask the money to do it? Yep. And right now where we are in this, there's so many people, the industry people are burning rubber, the ones that are going to try to do a PMTA by September. They're throwing everything that they can at that. And then obviously the fighting in the bigger states where they do more business. And I just don't want people to wait on the sidelines now when education could maybe help if we could get one Democrat to flip or one Democrat to.
Oh, well, I'm definitely working on it. It's just, there's, like I said, there's only so much pressure that can be applied here.
Yeah. Is there advice you can give to take your choice or both a consumer in your state or any state to you mentioned that you've talked to some of these people. What is your approach to doing so?
With the Republicans, the approach is basically these vape shops aren't going to exist. Do you really want to kill all these jobs? Especially when we're headed towards some tough economic times. And I obviously bring up the fact that it's very undemocratic for a health department or any type of government agency to set permanent rules when state Congress didn't give them that authority. It's really supposed to be like emergency order type of stuff. I with a few of them, I talked about E-Valley and they seemed fairly educated on that. So the Republicans weren't a hard sell. With the Democrats, the black market is something that I've brought up. Obviously, how it could disproportionately affect some groups, and we don't have the enforcement to even handle something like that. I brought up, that when you have a black market, products could be less safe. I brought up harm reduction. I brought up the UK and their approach. I kind of explained that the science why flavors are important. A lot of these people think, not just in my state, but everywhere, they still think that flavors are a kid thing, right? Like they think that majority of adults aren't even vaping flavors.
Right. Are you... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Victor from the chat room has a question. It says, well, what can out-of-state people do to help?
There's not a lot an out-of-state person could do in this situation other than definitely, donate to the groups that like CASA or VTA or something that can do more. I know people have done it before, but if you call a representative and you don't even live in that state, like they just don't give a shit about you. And
everybody use Matt Culley's zip code when you.
Some have lied before and stuff, I guess, but I'm not necessarily going to tell people to do that.
Hi, Bob. It's me, Matt again.
Matt, you sound different this time.
Can you say with conviction when you're walking into someone you've met, because you've done so, when you're presenting them with their concerns before they ask the question on either side, that they're receptive to it because they already think flavors, they already think lung disorder, they already think the children? Is it something that you do beforehand, or do you wait for them to ask you?
I usually try to, you have to know your audience. So you can, I don't have like a set plan, although, I might have kind of an idea in my head of where this is all going to go. Yeah. But you want to read the person, obviously. And what really helps when talking to any politician is to know their politics and to research, even if they're like, not all Democrats are the same, not all Republicans are the same. You have, culturally conservative Republicans that are anti-drugs and stuff. And then you have libertarian type Republicans that want to legalize weed and stuff. So like there's all types of different politicians. And so you really got to know your audience and research that person before you ever talk to them.
You find one common thing, Republican or Democrat, that they voted on that you agree with, and that's part of your talking point. Hey, I saw what you did here with X. Wow, what a great thing you've done. Have a little, couth and understanding what.
Yeah, you always want to find something you agree on for sure. I mean, I even do that with Vanessa. Yeah. Hey, you did a great job today doing this, but
however,
I have never done that with my wife ever.
It always softens the blow, man. Don't you want to get pumped up a little bit before?
No. I do. You did a great thing part, but I stopped before the word but.
Well, you don't necessarily say but you just kind of there's ways to do this.
My wife sleeps with a machete under her pillow, and I'm.
All I got is yes, dear, you're right. I'm sorry, no matter what it is. So that's working for me.
and he survived. He's like 100 years old, and he's still here.
102. And in the CASA world, www.casa.org, you have targeted for the consumer, your state, your issues. Period. They tell you what's going on. That's part of what CASA does for the states. So everybody knows. I don't know who doesn't.
I think everybody that's here probably already knows about CASA at this juncture.
They should.
Rarely do we get somebody stumble in here that's not a vapor and very active. But yeah. So I know, Matt, you had a lot of stuff to do tomorrow and you needed to pop in, but you're welcome to stay if you want and hang out while we talk to Legion and Paul about what's going on in Australia.
I'll hang out for about another 15, 20 minutes or so.
Okay. So, Legion, for our audience, you're kind of a new guy. You've been in the chat room, I believe, some, but kind of introduce yourself to everybody so, they kind of know who you are.
Oh, where do you want me to start? In terms of advocacy and vaping and that sort of stuff, I've been vaping about 5 years or so. 30-year plus smoker, heavy habit. Tried to quit a number of times, of course, and it never worked. So this was a godsend and really opened my eyes in a lot of things in terms of what works, what's capable. And I really wanted to give a lot of that back. So, yeah, of course, first thing I did was get myself a camera, get myself set up, start doing all this stuff, start doing the reviews, starting to throw out more advocacy into the reviews and side channels. I do about 5 or 6, I think it is now, live streams a week, plus the reviews on top. So yeah, that's kind of that thing. It's been growing in terms of my audience and my involvement over the last 4 years. So that's sort of that. The other side of things is that, yeah, Canadian born, and I've been here in Australia for about 10 years. This time, about 20 years total lived in Australia. So I'm a true international mutt.
Well, and here's I've got your channel up here on screen, so people can see it. It's Legion Vapes with an exclamation mark at the end.
Yes. I believe it works if you forget the exclamation as well. So either way, we'll get you there.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, I just typed in Legion Vapes without the exclamation and it found it, so it's right there. But yeah, I mean, you have like 38,000 followers, and you do reviews and stuff, but it's, you do every once in a while throw up an advocacy video, right?
Oh yeah, I do. Like I said, I do. Well, the Friday video is always an advocacy live stream. And then on sort of a newer thing that we started doing on Sunday night, we have the Aussie Vape Show, which is myself, a number of different reviewers in Australia. And we always try to bring on a vendor or a juice manufacturer or someone involved in the industry who's not normally on camera. Part of it is to focus on our specific issues, our lifestyle, etc., but also to highlight that part of the industry that doesn't get a lot of face time. In Australia, most of the vendors just take care of themselves, but really getting a lot of the thoughts and ideas, getting them known, making them real to people out there. That's been an awful lot of what that's about, and I'm really, really enjoying that. And yeah, the Eye on Vaping every week is just nonstop advocacy. It's all about whatever's happening in your world, whatever's happening in my world, whatever's happening that needs to be paid attention to. So yeah, that's cool. It's been a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
So, I guess it was last week. Yeah, last week, Greg Hunt, I'm really trying not to say the other thing that I always call him, came out kind of like out of nowhere, basically, with this nicotine prohibition thing. And, Paul was on last week, and we were already at full volume. Like we were like already ready to start, cursing and flying the pirate flag and rebelling. So talk to us about how that felt. Like when you woke up in the morning and it was on the news.
Well, I didn't actually. That morning was my live stream, and I was doing an advocacy-based video all about how the laws in Australia pertain to vaping, how you can access nicotine, where you are prescribed, where you can carry it, all that sort of stuff. I really was diving deep into the situation as it currently existed in Australia. At the exact same time that I was doing that video live, it became instantly obsolete because that's exactly when that press release came out. So at the very end, it was just kind of like, I got a couple of messages. I went and read it. I yelled, I screamed, I raged around the house for about 20 minutes. And then I sort of internalized all of that, turned on the camera, and I did a surprise part 2 video. Okay, everything I just said is crap. Here's where we stand now, and this is what we need to do. And of course, you've already talked to Paul, so you know the background. In Australia, liquid nicotine in a suspended solution is 100% prohibited without a prescription, and there is no legal access to be able to purchase it within the country. So we had to import every single vapor in the country. That's what we do. We have to order from overseas. We bring it in, and because of shipping costs and because of practicalities, we tend to go for 100 milligram because you only need to add a little bit to existing e-liquids. Works out for us.
And you're only allowed to have 3 months supply, right? Something like that.
And you're only allowed to order 3 months supply at a time with a prescription. This is something that as a community we fell down on. We didn't always push the prescription. A lot of people just don't bother, but technically you should have that. It's a prescription, prescribed, mandated substance. So this new law that was coming in, actually I speak falsely. Everyone is saying it's a new law. It's not.
Not a law.
It's a new interpretation of existing laws with a slight amendment, and that amendment was the personal importation scheme being struck off. So we would no longer be able to import. Prescription only through a pharmacy or an authorized TGA-approved vendor. There are none of those. They don't exist. We were given 12 days and told that at the end of that, the only way is to go down this pathway. By the way, it's not there. There's no pathway. We haven't figured that out. We don't know. We'll figure that out later. So it was literally, for me, not a problem. I mean, I've got stocks. I've got stores. I'll survive. My concern is always with newer vapors, beginning vapors, those that are looking to quit like tomorrow or the next day, those who haven't begun this journey yet. I want them to have the access to the same good stuff that we had. It worked for me. It worked for you guys. It should work for them. And this would just literally kill that for at least a year.
Yeah, so, it was already difficult enough to get what you needed there, and it just made it it was going to make it way harder.
Uptake of vaping amongst adults who already smoke would be much, much higher if you could just walk into a store and say, I want to quit smoking. Give me some stuff. I want to go home and use it. Oh, cool. Here's a bottle of mango, and here's a Caliburn. You're good. Boom. It would be simple. But in this country, here's a Caliburn. Here's some mango. Now, it doesn't have nicotine. Here, let me write down an address. And if you go online and order from overseas, in maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3, you'll get some stuff. Oh, you're going to need a syringe and some gloves. And here's a little chart. So you're going to have to measure how much you put in and put into that bottle. By the way, you probably have to throw some of that bottle away to make room for it. Shake it up, maybe leave it an hour or two. Do you know that's a reasonable way to go about things? It's insane. If you are an elderly person, if you have hand issues, eye coordination, if you're disabled in any way, if you cannot get good credit to order online, you are barred from all of this, or you're in danger. Does it make sense for a 65-year-old grandmother who's like, right, I got to take care of myself, got to be here for my grandkids? Does it make sense for her to be ordering 100 milligram nicotine and trying to mix?
When I was in New Zealand, that's what I talked to a couple of the vendors there that sell into Australia, and that's when I did not get I got scoffed at too. Like people like, yeah, it's a dumb idea. Like, why aren't you guys doing actual nic shots, single serving nic shots to make this more simple? Like they're doing the easy mix things and making people do become chemists and shit. Like at least the process already sucks, but at least make it easier for and not as scary.
Shake and vape.
Did have something similar. It used to be that manufacturers in this country, like our local domestic e-liquid makers, made what was called doublers. So basically all the flavor, but half as much PG and VG. So a half empty bottle, right? But double strength flavor. And you would buy a bottle, say you want 18, you buy a bottle of 36. Mix them together, shake it up, good to go. A simpler option. The problem with that is that you can't get anarchist, you can't get dinner lady, you can't get any overseas e-liquids in that format. So then people are stuck with having that and they're ready to go mix plus a little bit of 100 ml for that. So depending what your preference for flavors are, it became very, very complex to have all this stuff and to try and explain it to people what the differences are. And it's really seemed to, over the last year or two, to have just doublers have fallen away, and it's literally just buy 100 milligram and add 1.8 mils or whatever your thing is. It is crazy. I don't like that situation. I deal with it myself. We all do, but I like honestly believe that you should be able to walk into a store, buy what you need, and walk out ready to go. Yep. The most complex thing a beginner should ever have to deal with is how to get that damn silicon plug back in.
Well,
after that, you're good.
Yeah. There's nothing that's going to scare an older person who has spent their entire life following the rules.
Yeah.
Than buying something and then having to go over here and get a syringe, a sketch. It just feels sketchy. It feels like you're doing something wrong. There's nothing. That's going to chase people away.
My wife
already has.
My wife vapes as well, and we both quit at the same time. And she's a solid supporter of what I'm doing here. I adore her like crazy, but she's a bit of a rebel. She's a wild one. But even when we started, I had to go and research and send her reams and reams of websites and information just to prove to her that, Border Patrol aren't going to kick down our door. We're not going to get busted for doing this. I just show her that, this is legal. We can do this. We can do that.
Well, I know people that have, I've been around long enough to know that the TGA will destroy you if they want to. And, back in old timey days, there was a guy named
one guy, huh?
Vince from Australia. They fucking raped him. Like, they took everything from him, fought for years in court. One of my friends in the chat room, JoJo's, is from Australia. She lives in California now, but she was in Australia when all this was happening back in the day. And JoJo's was our correspondent, because I used to be in a group called the Vaping Militia. I was one of the people in that organization, and we had a show on a different sort of vaping social media sort of thing, and we interviewed him way back when. The TGA is not a joke, and they will fucking ruin you if they want to.
The thing to keep in mind too, TGA are civil servants. They are unelected. They are a body, a force that is permanent. They're not going anywhere. Their direction is nominally by the Department of Health and nominally by Greg Hunt, and he will push them in different directions. And they don't really follow the rules, but they will do what the current government says. Our current government and Greg Hunt has a major hard-on against vaping. It's for some reason he just is adamant on destroying it. So that's kind of where they are now. Up to recently, he hasn't made any changes to what they're supposed to do, and they've been in the recent years fairly lenient. This is where the law says you should have a prescription to import and 3-month supply was never really pushed. This is why we got lazy. This is why, as a country, as a community, we failed to get our prescriptions, most of us, and we ordered whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted, without any mind to any sort of 3-month supply. They let that go. They didn't worry about it, and that got us all feeling very slack, very lax. And this is where Greg Hunt's thing has come in. He's seen that we are taking advantage of that, and he's tried to slam down the door with absolutely no way to import. The only way through is through whatever he has mandated, this non-existent pipeline that,
Well, and
then doesn't a product have to file to even be accepted to be a prescription product? How does that work?
To actually be a product, like a finished product on the market, there's a whole pathway It's massive, and you got to prove all sorts of things. You got to give all sorts of reports, etc. Which I don't think, dinner lady's not going to do that. But
so it could end up being like the views and blue and shit like that's the only thing you'd be able to get.
I do have a strong feeling that that's their goal, is to destroy the actual domestic market, to remove all what they consider to be the cowboy brands and leave nothing but pharma on the table. A pharma branded jewel with a Nicorette written down the side is, I strongly feel that's kind of the goal that they have. Not something I'm looking forward to.
Well, that's in the pipeline, but Matt, the thing is with the TGA, it's very much like a PMTA, but the pathway isn't even set up yet for that process. Only part of it is there in writing. The whole rigmarole of going through it is that you have to submit said product and all the scientific data behind that product to be registered as a therapeutic good, not as an NRT, nicotine replacement therapy. They are going and they want the pharmacies and big pharma, specifically here in Australia, to actually control the supply and the manufacturing of said products. And now, when I did a show with you about 18 months ago, we spoke about this, and you the little light bulb went on inside your head, and you went, well, that makes sense, but it's not fair, when we were speaking with Chuck Allen.
There's already a pharma-approved nicotine e-cigarette in New Zealand. I thought I saw something about an approved product in New Zealand that's already available and distributed in pharmacies. It's a New Zealand product, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But that took so much work and effort to actually get to that point.
Right.
But here, the framework isn't there.
And I think that's something that we've got to consider right now. The vaping community in Australia is celebrating. We just won a victory. We all feel very, very positive. And, I don't want to be the person to take that away from us. In 7 days, something was announced, and we have managed to create such a massive furor, such a positive media spin on this, that we've managed to get it changed. This is a major victory for us. But on the other hand, we do need to stop and take a look at what has changed. And my wife, again, we were talking about it this morning, and she pointed it out clearly to me. Only one thing has changed: the date.
Yeah.
Everything else is identical.
Welcome to the U.S. That's how it's been in the U.S. That's like our wins, is when something gets delayed.
And like I said, we need to be proud of ourselves for what we've done. We need to celebrate, but we need to keep in mind that they've said on January 1st, this will all happen again. There's a vague promise of and this is interesting. They said, was it a streamlined prescription process? Now, right now, getting a prescription is pretty easy if you approach the right doctor. The prescription process was never the missing part of the equation. It was everything that came after.
Distribution.
How the fuck do you get it fulfilled once you've got the prescription? If they close off imports and pharmacies don't have it, if no companies can get a license to import or retail this product, then it's pointless.
And these people that are going to do that are inexperienced.
They're either inexperienced or it's big pharma.
Right. Well, and it's pretty clear they're not going to be wanting products like Dinner Lady and shit like that getting sold in a pharmacy. It's going to be a pre-filled, not boring product that's, and there maybe be a couple different options.
The best that we can hope for with a full pharma solution is that pharmas will be allowed to retail pure unflavored nic concentrate in a range of strengths. 6, 12, 36, 50, maybe 100.
Yeah.
That would be the best possible outcome from a pure pharma pipeline.
Just seems like it's tough to sell, though, man. Like selling bulk nicotine for people to
see. That just seems like a slippery slope to me. It seems like to me, if they're going to do something like that with pre-measured things, they're also going to tell you your prescription is only good for 90 days or whatever, and you can only consume this many mills in that 90 days. This is your full 90-day supply. This is your if you vape 12 milligram, here's your 24. You can mix it in with your whatever. It just seems like that just seems like more of a way for them to control how much you get and when you can have it.
Now, if you could fight for like a dispensary model, like what they do with like medical marijuana in the States, where a vape shop basically gets a license, they're a dispensary, people come in and show their prescription card, and then they can buy. That would obviously be a lot more, up your alley. But if every product is to get approved like a PMTA situation, then that's going to be tough.
And what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm not supporting the concept that I described there. I'm just saying that I can see from what they're currently doing, the best possible outcome for keeping it in the medical would be that. We've got to look at this too. You never aim for the compromise, but there are certain things that they are just not going to give up on. I don't know that we can win by getting rid of prescriptions. I don't know. I don't feel that they're going to give that up. I mean, that's sad to me. I want to see it out of there, but I don't see that they're going to give that up. But if it's the farmer route, then the dispensary system would be awesome. I don't want. Then
you could have finished product.
Yeah.
Isn't part of the setup of this? And forgive me, I don't have a link for it. What part of their process is it's a pharmaceutical. You get the prescription with the intent of quitting. So you have to go back every 90 days to renew.
Yeah.
So Patrick's point of, well, it's 6, it's really not working, I need 12, or it's too strong and I need 6. Now you got to wait 90 days, and then you got to wait 90 more days.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, prescriptions are just bad. Because so many people start vaping on a whim because they saw some e-cig next to their cigarettes at the gas station,
And there's not going to be anybody to teach them. There's not going to be that vape shop model where people can sit down at the counter with you and talk to you about how you smoke and what did you smoke and oh, well, here, try this. How's the throat hit? Is that too harsh? There's not going to be any of that counseling, and I hate to use that word, but any of that, customer service that you get in a vape shop to help you have the best experience possible when you got to go to a pharmacy. It's just not going to happen.
And what you described as a dispensary setup, if all vape stores in Australia, or the majority of them, become licensed dispensaries of nicotine, so you have to have some level of training. You have to have each person who works there has a set of courses they have to go through, et cetera. If that's the framework that we have to go through, I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. I just want a world where I can carry a couple of pre-filled pods in my pocket, and when I'm talking to someone, I can help them out, because that's why I do this. I want to help people out. I want to see them succeed and do better in their lives. So, I mean, again, I bring it up all the time. Older people, hand issues, disabilities, all these people in our world, in our specific part of the world, they are extremely disadvantaged. They are left out of the equation. I'm privileged. I'm white. I've got some money. I can order stuff. But not everyone has that. And I want to see everyone succeed the way we all have.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, that's fun, guys, but it was, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
Have a good one, everybody. Nice chatting with you.
I appreciate you coming, Matt. You're always welcome.
Take care, Matt.
You can come back whenever you want. We're here.
Have a good one.
See you, Matt.
He's doing yard work tomorrow. He said he's got to get up early.
But yeah,
so back to what we were talking about.
Back to what we were talking about. just the going back to the concept that this reprieve that we've had, it's a stay of execution, which is the phrase I've been using for the last 2 days. It doesn't mean the sentence has changed in any way. We're sitting on death row, and that's kind of, celebrations aside, that's kind of where we need to look at this. There is an end date where everything changes, and it changes in a way that we don't want. We've got time to appeal. We've got time to fight. And there are a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that are building up. A couple of lawsuits I know about. a lot of people trying to figure out their angle of attack.
But we need to go back on the timeline though, because we did get ahead. So like you were live, you did your little video, and then as soon as that happened, like Paul was on the show last week with me and Kevin, and we were already energized, we were angry, we were ready to go, and then there was there was a period since last Friday where Twitter was a fire. Welcome. The vaping advocacy group, and that's what was it? Save Vaping Australia.
Legalize Vaping.
Legalize Vaping Australia. They put out some some pretty awesome, but there was some aggressive. There was some tweets and there was some like memes or pictures or graphics that they put together that CASA would never do. Like CASA is very diplomatic. Some of the Legalized Vaping Australia like verbiage was more aggressive than what the advocacy groups here would do. They were going at it, and then there were a group of politicians in Australia that actually had stepped up, and I don't remember their names, but I did tweet, and they had their own petition. They had started a petition, and I don't know how many signatures. I know that Legalized Vaping Australia had their petition, and it had like 20,000 signatures or something like that.
See, this is where things get sad and positive at the same time. Legalized Vaping had their petition. It was started about 4 months ago when we first heard word that something was in the works. And so they started the ball rolling, and they had, I think, 16,000 on there. Not a huge show out. We could have done a lot better. When this all came down and the two politicians came on side, and they were working in conjunction with Legalized Vaping to get this going, they put up their petition, and it's currently at, last I looked, was 67,000. It was, I think, 35 or 40,000 within a day and a half. It just exploded. It literally just exploded. The Legalized Vaping petitions started catching up, but it should have already been there. It should have been there from the start. Just a sign that a lot of people will not take action until the last moment, until it's too late, until they are directly threatened. We have a whole slew of vapors in Australia who thought, it's fine, I can import what I want. But no, I'm getting to that.
72,327 signatures. So there's still a need for about 3,000 more signatures to reach the 75,000 signature goal.
That counter is a bit of a myth.
Oh,
it every time we hit a goal, it just gets bigger.
Oh, good.
Because the original goal was 10, and then 15, and then 20, etc.
Well, the goal's 100,000. We need more people. Everybody that's not already done this, because obviously I've already done this, but when I shared it on Twitter, I was worried there for a minute because I shared it on Twitter, and when I clicked on it, it said I had already signed, and I'm like, well, does that mean that everybody that clicks on that link is going to say that they already signed? But apparently it worked. So, but these two fellas right here, Matt Cann and George Christensen, were the two guys that I was talking about. The two MPs is that the word, ministers or MPs that stepped up and
we managed 28 MPs within the first week to actually flip to be on our side. 28 is more than half. I think we've got Paul can probably correct me on this. 52.
Yeah, 56, but we're now at 30. Another 2 have jumped on board, and there's more that are looking to cross the floor on this. There was revolt behind the scenes. And to have people of Greg Hunt's own party flip on him like this and put the knife in was fun. It's fun to watch. It's a whole lot of fun to watch. From last week being on the show to this week, And the worldwide vaping community just came together and just went, no, we're not going to let this happen. And I'm going to use Greg Hunt's term, not on my watch. Good luck. Well, not on my watch. We flipped it and we've upturned the table on him. And we're not going to give up. The fight's only just begun. And the thing that I put out the other day is, you know, our cannons are loaded and the sails are hoisted. Because guess what? Buckle up, Buttercup. We're not going anywhere now. We're here for the long haul. Simple as that.
How I have two parts that don't connect. How did you get? Because you're not going to convince me it was just a Twitter pylon that changed this. How did you get those MPs to flip? What was the catalyst for them doing so? Was it really about?
Okay. We managed to rally sufficient number of actual vapors who are threatened by the situation to actually phone their MPs and to phone each and every one constantly to tie up those phone lines, to tell their story. When they weren't doing that, we had them calling the media outlets. So we had the radio, the TV, the print press, all spinning on our side, taking our story and taking our flag and waving it for us. So a lot of that pressure, public pressure. And I've always said that politicians only care about their paycheck, their benefits, and getting reelected. So when you threaten that, when you show that there's sufficient numbers to get them out of office if they don't act, it starts to scare them. And we put fear of God into them.
Okay, now
the other key component is there's another gentleman here that we need to thank, and that's Adam Breezetones. He's a coil builder. Him putting together a list of all the politicians' MPs and all their email addresses, phone numbers, business addresses, everything like that. We also hammered the crap out of their email addresses. Absolutely hammered them.
Good.
I think a few people need new computers now because we melted their email systems.
Good.
Sorry. And new phone lines.
So Patrick, this is what I was saying earlier, that we had the benefit. We're fighting federal rather than state or city or county. We didn't have a diffuse platform or a diffuse army going in all directions. We were all focused on one issue, and we're able to fight federal. So we could ignore state level. We could ignore local level. We went for federal level MPs and up. And so that really allowed us to sort of maximize the impact.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know that there's a the way the country in Australia is organized is into different states. I mean, essentially, you have different states, but one national government, and their federal government is or at least the states are not quite as diverse. I mean,
yeah. Well, they each have their own issues to deal with, and they have their own mandates on different things. But what I'm saying here is in your case, you originally were looking at the FDA, and then state governors started coming in and local bans and all that, which really distracted a lot of your efforts. And really, there's immediate issues to deal with in anyone's area, whereas we weren't currently fighting any state. We're not currently fighting any specific thing like that. We were able to all focus.
Yeah, what I have on screen right now is actually a Twitter list that I found that is the Twitter accounts and addresses of every MP in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
I did not create this, but I did find it. For later on, this might be handy for people. So I did give it to Paul last week, but I mean, I could put it in the chat room, I guess.
I think you should. I think part of the lead in that you ended up with is something that you started with earlier, Legion. Your word, I don't necessarily think was complacency, but it's reminiscent. The movement you guys accomplished is reminiscent of us in November. We went we vape, we vote, we bitched, we had a peaceful demonstration, and in a few weeks we were in the White House. Different in your country, but your complacency turned into fever or furor, like you've said.
Yeah.
And it's a great lesson for those of us in the United States to remember the complacency is what's going to get you to the point that you have to act right the hell now or you're screwed. So it's kudos to you guys for doing what you did. And what I put on my screen for my name or whatever that tag is, louder, the fight is global. You guys were a great example of what can be done. You're prolonging it until January. It's understood, but good for you guys. I'm really grateful that this happened.
Now, do they have lobbyists in Australia? I mean, are they as corrupt? Is their government like ours, where business interests can hire people to lobby for them? Is that something that exists in Australia?
That's just Paul's.
Not officially. not officially. Not the same way. Do special interests push the government? Yes, but not as acknowledged as they are in the States.
If
they're licensed.
If you're from mining lobbies, yes, you'll get a seat at the table and you'll have a chat with the government. The problem here is that our illustrious health minister won't even sit down with the stakeholders within the vaping community and talk to us openly and have a proper roundtable discussion on what he would like to see. Because A, he is not a doctor, he is a lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
And B, he has no real understanding of what the hell is going on here. When you have a country, and especially the CMOs or the chief medical officers of each of the states and the health ministers of each of the states, when none of them are actually doctors, they're lawyers. And the best one out of all of them is the Northern Territory. That one's a school teacher that got given the seat as the health minister of the Northern Territory. Now, the Northern Territory's just 98% Indigenous, and they've got some of the highest smoking rates and death rates because of tobacco issues and other issues. They will not talk to us. Yeah. I love that one.
I mean, I'm over here in Texas, but I did try to do my part, and I know Kevin is probably the most prolific Twitterer around. And I sort of thought it was weird that the health minister was an attorney. So I put it, is it against the law in Australia for a lawyer to impersonate a doctor? And I tagged Greg, and I said a good lawyer would know the answer. Your misdiagnosis will kill a lot of Aussie smokers and vapors, and quit playing doctor with Aussie Health. And I put minister for death because at the time that seemed like a very popular hashtag that was being used.
Now, I'm going to say probably an unpopular opinion here, but I don't see that there's anything wrong with having a politician, lawyers become politicians, having a politician holding a political office and being in charge of something they're not really too versed in.
As long as he has a council or has a cabinet or whatever, a staff of people that actually do know what
advice on board, and they're willing to listen and acknowledge expertise.
But he's not.
But
this is a man. I mean, he's got a person in this country who is probably one of the world's most foremost experts in e-cigarettes and ending smoking cessation and vaping and all of that stuff. And he's sitting there desperate to talk. He just wants to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with Greg Hunt, and he will not listen to him.
Yeah, Colin doesn't get any FaceTime at all.
It's not only Colin, it's Alex Wodak as well, Dr. Alex Wodak.
Both of them.
Colin got
and then
you got a little radio.
Yeah, but if you want to put the third one in there that was there in the fight back in the early days here, you also have to put Dr. Attila Danko. There's Attila Danko, there's Dr. Colin Mendelsohn and Dr. Alex Wodak. And now you have GPs coming up and saying, but this works. Why can't we have this? Why can't we do this? Why can't I walk into a doctor's office here's a vape. Go and try this and tell me if this works for you. Can't do that. And you can't actually, none of us that are in the community, we can't actually openly tell you the health benefits of vaping. You're not allowed in any way, shape, or form.
As a consumer?
Correct.
Okay. Wow.
Well, as a consumer, you can't go to your friend, really. You can't give that type of advice because
I'm gonna stop you. Fuck all that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I knew that'd happen. And if you work in the industry in any way, shape, or form, you can show them or point them in the right direction of where to find said nicotine. You can help them mix said nicotine, but you can't openly, give them said nicotine in any way, shape, or form. Now, each of the states have different fines at the moment. Mm-hmm. And then when the top state was Western Australia with $45,000, and that's where Vince was. Mm-hmm. Now, with this 1,000-point business and up to 220,000 Australian dollars for importation, I'm like, hang on a second, what just happened? So if we screw you on this deal and we don't allow it, and you still import it, and then you've got your favorite friend, Kevin, Chimpman's come out of the woodwork overnight, and he's going after all of us, and he's gaslighting some of us in a big way. And I'm not very impressed with the way he's doing it this time. I think the old fuddy-duddy's bored, and he needs to go back under his rock and go back to sleep.
Yes.
We've got this. We've got this now. Enough is enough. We're not okay. The average vape age or vapor's age here in Australia is around 30 plus. People that have been smoking for a number of years that need a way out. Our culture has always been beer, caffeine, cigarettes. Simple as that. It always has been here.
Beer.
But when you stop it, dickhead. The problems here is, these are elected officials and they won't speak to us. They won't speak to the industry in any way, shape, or form. Colin has asked for a meeting on various occasions. Clive Bates flew all the way to Australia and asked for 10 minutes with Greg Hunt. Sorry, can't do that. I don't want to know about you. And he's one of the foremost experts. Dr. Fasalina said the other day on Twitter, this is criminal. Absolutely criminal of what the health minister has done. That also threw some weight behind this. And Fasalina started tagging Greg Hunt in certain things and putting up all the different studies. And the other thing we found out, Greg Hunt's Twitter account isn't run by Greg Hunt. It's run by a staffer or a media company. So they're being fed the misinformation. Greg Hunt spouting off, and this is the one that really kills me. Greg Hunt is spouting off Glance's studies as being gospel. How or what the fuck? Why?
Yep.
There are way better studies out there.
There's two ways that we can live our lives. We can go through our days. We can choose the faith method or we can choose the scientific method. Mm-hmm. If you choose the scientific method, then you are open to any information that comes to you. And if it's valid, if you can take it on board, you will alter your path based on what you've learned. You become a growing, evolving entity. Any good scientist will take on new information and their hypotheses will change. And they'll have no shame in saying, I said this, I was wrong. New information has come to light. I'm going over here now. Chapman clearly has dug his feet in. He's no longer applying scientific method to the way he works. He's invalid. When you are following the faith method, then you have gospel texts. They tell you what to think.
Yeah.
And Hunt is sitting there preaching the gospel. Only thing that can get past his ears is negativity, things that in his mind prove we're wrong. And yet when we heard him speak, he went on 2GB and he spoke. There was no content there. There was no thought there. Even in reciting his own gospels, he was stumbling over the words. He couldn't express himself clearly because he doesn't even understand why he's against this.
Right.
Yeah.
So the 2GB thing. There was a couple of audio pieces. I think it's a radio station, but they do have tech stuff up here. But talking about Hunt regurgitating U.S. talking points. So first he says that there's a doubling of the phone calls into the poison control center. So if they do their statistics and follow how we track those calls in the United States, any call where somebody calls and has a question about a product gets logged as a question about that product, or it gets logged that way. So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's been a doubling of people calling with ill effects or with problems. It could be that somebody was calling with a concern or a question. But here, I love this. Like here, this is a U.S. talking point. What we're seeing in the U.S. is a 78% increase in the number of high school children who are vaping, which is not true. The numbers that came out last week show a decrease in the number of youth use, and it's not anywhere near. I mean, they're saying a 78% increase. There was no increase at all in last year's numbers. It's actually a small drop. And obviously, this here is a catch-all. The FDA has been deeply concerned about what we've described as an epidemic. There's no fact there. There's no information there. This is just a talking point to scare people. And then obviously this one, under the current administration of President Trump. I don't know why Greg Hunt would even try to quote something from Donald Trump. I mean, in Australia, I figured that Donald Trump doesn't have a very high regard. Does he? Okay. So under the current administration, President Trump, they have been very critical. They have seen what they believe is a measure which has not become a cessation tool. We were all waiting on bated breath. All of us here, everybody in the chat room, you guys, I'm sure, were sitting on the edge of your seat on September 10th last year when Trump made that tweet, and then everything that followed, where VTA and everybody got to go and sit in a room with the president and talk about vaping. And if you watched that video, because it's an hour-long video, Trump didn't seem, after he sat and started talking to people, that he was concerned. If you look at the questions that he was asking, it was almost like he had realized that if he followed the way that we were going, that we were setting the industry up as a monopoly for big tobacco. I mean, he even used those words. This is going to be a monopoly if we do this. So, he's throwing these very vague and generic U.S. talking points in Australia, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's not relevant. Your business model is completely different than ours.
It makes sense to me because what he's doing is not about these statements are not about why he's doing it. They're not about what his intentions or goals are. They're all about justifying it in the public mind.
Well,
These are a press release in order to get the housewives and the anti-smoking people and the anti-vaping people to feel satisfied, to feel that what he's doing is appeasing them, and he's actually protecting people. Things like that thing you were talking about.
Every politician around election time just wants to show that they're doing something because we talked about it. It's very visceral. You tell a parent that somebody's going to harm their child and they react out of emotion. They don't sit there and go, oh, well, let me think about that for a minute. No, they don't do that. When somebody says they're going after your kids, every mama in the room is reaching in her purse and she's got a gun. This is Texas, so most of the women already have guns in their purse.
I was listening to 2GB on the same day that was on, and they were talking back and forth about vaping. We were taking phone calls. A guy in Sydney sounded like a really nice guy. He was a father, and he said, "Look, I talked to my daughter, and she's in year 10, which is grade 10 for you guys.
10th grade, yeah."
And she says, all the kids in my year vape. They all vape. And he said, this is concerning to me because they do it because they like the flavors and they're sweet, but then they're getting addicted to the nicotine, and I'm worried about the nicotine on their brains. And then the guy responded to that on the radio, and it was done. And I wanted to be there to address him, and to ask him the questions. Like, first of all the kids in your daughter's year vape, is that valid? No. You're taking some hearsay and reporting on it.
I mean, if all the commercially available e-liquid in Australia is zero, how in the hell are these kids getting nicotine?
Yes,
and also, where the hell are you as a parent that you're allowing your? I mean, here, I'm assuming that when they deliver that package, DHL or whoever it is that's going to deliver it in Australia is going to require a signature.
I can tell you. I want to say I can tell you for a fact. I can't verify this. One very strong feeling. There are no kids ordering 100 milligram from New Zealand, intercepting it at the door, sneaking off to the bedroom so they can add, exactly the right amount so they can fill up their little caliber and pod systems or whatever, so they can look and feel cool at school and get a head buzz. The worst possible situation would be they're vaping some zero nic.
Well, no. The worst possible situation is if that does happen, because then there would be a doubling of poison calls, because these dumbass kids would be putting the wrong amount, they'd be mixing it way too damn strong, and the next thing you know, there's going to be, I mean, obviously, teenagers vaping. I don't believe that they could vape enough. Naturally, their body's going to prevent them from overdosing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different if you drink it, but if you're actually vaping it, your body's going to stop you before you do anything really bad.
I'm never going to deny that, kids are attracted to things they shouldn't be. Kids do things they shouldn't be.
Kevin, how old were you when you started smoking?
Deny that was 9. People vape.
Yeah, Kevin was 9 when he started smoking. So, I mean, perfect example. I was 12. I'm sure Paul was, he's a rebel. He was probably 4 or something. But,
No, I was 14. Ask that.
Paul came out of the womb. He's like, "Hey, babe, got a light?"
No, that would be my Irish grandparents. That would be my grandpa coming out. But, that's not how this works. I mean, everybody knows. Everybody in the chat room. John said it a while ago. Kids are going to experiment, for Christ's sakes. I'll throw it up here. Kids are going to experiment, for Christ's sakes. I tried to smoke gum leaves when I was a kid. My parents are real country people. I mean, I am a dyed in the wool fucking hillbilly. My grandparents were farmers, and my mom talked about smoking corn silk.
Yep,
that's something that happened. I don't know if it still happens, but
my grandmother did that.
Yeah, I mean that's a country thing, smoking corn silk, and you're like, "Mom, that's gross," but
So your kids in your situation in Australia, here it's pretty well momentarily freely available. Anybody can get it, even the kids. So in your instance, not only is it zero nicotine, but the only way that the kids really could get nicotine underage is to walk into your area, take it from you already done, and walk out. That's the only literal way that you guys have an epidemic of any kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing that is, okay, Kev,
it comes down again, parental responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parenting is an action verb, period.
See, Bruni is the tough guy in the room. Bruni was 6 when he started. So,
that was like 118 years ago. Damn.
Well, I mean, I didn't even realize they had commercially available cigarettes when he was younger. I figured that was, like the cowboy kind, but
The key component.
He was one of the original Botany Bay guys. So, you know.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
The thunder from down under.
Yeah. The key component that we're seeing, though, here is that disposables are appearing.
Yeah.
You see them now.
China will ship shit anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's a component that no one talks about.
Let's be honest.
There's a black market everywhere.
There is under-counter stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely possible that if a child is weaselly enough, wise enough, street smart enough, whatever you want to say, they could find their way through that. And I don't think there's anyone in the industry that really would have a problem with harsher penalties for that. That's not import. That's not our personal use. That doesn't affect how we do things. Just quite literally, if you're bringing in product and selling it on the streets or in tobacconists or whatever that you shouldn't be, I have no issue with someone throwing the book at that. A slap on the wrist is not enough.
No.
If you're selling Juul-like pods in your tobacconist under the counter when nicotine's not allowed here, fair enough. Lose your fucking license. Go for it. I have no issue with them going that far.
I believe that as an American, I don't really have any dog in this hunt, but what I do think that you know, obviously there needs to be a way for smokers in Australia to find vaping and to vape without it being insurmountable. And there should be a way for product to be available to them. There should be a way to do this and essentially embrace the technology. However, yeah, I believe there should be in the States. I think that here in the States, I mean, they've made it in some of these states, you can get as many as 7 penalties before they do anything to you. I believe in a zero tolerance policy. I think that if the FDA sting sellers come in and they fucking catch you, if you're a vape shop, they should fucking close your ass down day one. If you're a convenience store, they should come in, empty your shit out, and you're no longer legal to sell any tobacco products. I mean, obviously they sell other shit. I don't know that we could close a C store down legally because there's so many different regulatory things going on. But there should be fucking fines. There should be, it's not just like here in Texas, if they catch you, the first thing is a warning letter. You write them back a letter telling them the actions that you're going to take to corrective action. There's no teeth to it. Once you send your letter in, it's not like they're going to come back and verify you did anything that you said you were going to do in your letter. Second time, fucking warning letter again. In other states, I've seen that they can have as many as 7 warning letters before they're fined at all. It's bullshit.
That's 7 times as much profit before I have to actually worry about it.
Yeah. So literally, I am 100%, and I hate to say it, but I know for a fact that they would fucking get some. Vape people argue left and right that they are perfect. They never do anything wrong. When these warning letters go out, there's no vape shops there, so vape shops don't do it. That's bullshit. There are vape shops that sell to kids, and I'll be maybe an unpopular thing to say, but I'm not in this for popularity.
We need to throw the book.
I want them to go after all the bad actors. I want them to I want them basically in the public square, fucking in the pillory. Let everybody know what they did. Embarrass the fuck out of them. Close their doors. Whatever they have to do, so that everybody else sees what happens. That's the only way to that.
Can I address someone in the comment there?
Yeah.
Joanne Mendez.
Yes.
My brother in Australia is looking to quit smoking, now using vaping, and now I got no idea how to advise him on how to go about it. In the next 6 months, things stay the way they were. So basically, find yourself a vendor in the country that will supply the hardware and the e-liquid that he needs. And then he needs to go overseas, like online overseas, look at New Zealand and get himself some e-liquid to add to that, so 100 milligram. If he doesn't want to do with the mixing, Vaporize New Zealand will sell him, or Wickham Wire New Zealand, or a couple of other places. But
Victory Vape.
Victory Vape. Victory Vape don't have premix. They only have salts.
Oh,
but there are places where you can get premix if he wants to do that. Just order some bottles in, get the hardware domestically, and you're good to go for 6 months at least.
JoJo's.
I would advise. I was going to say I would advise him to learn how to add pure Nick or 100 milligram Nick, just because, like we said, this is a reprieve. And come about November, if it's working for him, if he's one of our success stories, start stocking up. We were caught short, we were caught late, and we had to rush. I would advise anyone who doesn't have good stocks, come November, just in case. January 1st is our next deadline, so stock up and make sure he's capable of dealing with that for at least another year or so.
Yeah, just have Mondo get on Skype and teach him how to. I mean, Mondo DIYs. So JoJo's from Australia, and she's married to one of my brothers from the militia. So
there is an important thing that I missed out. Go to athra.org.au, find the list of doctors, find one of those doctors. Dr. Colin is awesome. Get in touch with them and get that prescription. It's going to cover your ass for possession. It's going to cover your ass for import, and it's going to allow this whole thing to work for him in a stress-free manner. No looking over the shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go to Australia, but I saw that they were even going to hit us as tourists.
Oh yeah, as a tourist, you cannot. Yeah. If you don't have a prescription when you walk in, you can't keep it up.
Yeah, they're fucked. I'm not coming now. There's my money is gone, and I spend a lot of fucking money on vacation. I'll tell you, dude.
Well, I'll tell you, as an Australian, if I'm looking at traveling around the world, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do is find out what the local laws are, and my flights are going to go around any country where I can't look after myself.
Yeah, Singapore's out too. I used to love Singapore, but I won't ever go there again now. So yeah, they're screwed.
I do need to do one thing. I need to let you guys talk, and I need to go pee.
Oh, well,
I will return.
The other key thing that we watched, and we were watching this from the background, some of us in the industry knew and were looking at what Hunt was doing with other things in the TGA. When the wording started changing and the website started changing last year, we knew that there was change on the ground. This started around September when they started rewriting the documents. Come January, February, we saw even more changes. And I was letting you guys know what was going on with that. But then out of nowhere, he pulled a Swiftie. But look, over the next few months, we need to really dig in and try somehow, even if it's only Dr. Mendelsohn, Wodak, that actually get a seat at the table with Greg Hunt. If they could actually sway his opinion and try somehow to listen to reason. I like Matt Cully's idea of, vape shops becoming a dispensary, that they're trained. There's a framework in play. And we actually educate the consumer as to what they might need, what they don't need, and then help them. Well, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act, yes.
That educational program has to be built.
Correct.
Somebody needs to, obviously, when you go to the table, you don't go to the table. You come full blown, like, here's the deal, dude. We've developed an educational program. Here's the criteria. Here's the textbook, or here's the handouts, or here's all the information. We've covered X, Y, and Z, so that once a staff member goes through this program, they've learned all this stuff. They'll be tested and graded on this. Like, if you're going to go at this, this is how we do things in the healthcare world where I work now. I mean, we have to take these tests, and you have to score. Once you've gone through the seminar, or what you have to take a test. If you don't score high enough, you don't get credit for taking it. You got to retake it. You know, if you're gonna go that route, I mean, obviously there's a lot of shit that has to get done between now and January 1st. Like this has to be developed before you can do that. I mean, obviously there's, you know, I know that Demetrius and Phil already have a seminar system that they have in place. You know, something like that could be a starting point, but it has to be completely developed. And, you know, Victor says in France, they have an educational program in play already. You know, those Frenchies are pretty smart.
Well, we need to start reaching out to some of these other countries for help. We need to put ideas on the table now, not yesterday, and go forward from where we're standing right now, where we're sitting. We also need a true GMP program in place, like good manufacturing practice for the liquid manufacturers here in the country.
Well, I mean, there needs to be an actual GMP program developed for international. There's not an official GMP that has been developed specifically for vaping anywhere in the world.
No.
I know that Arnaud from France, who was on this show, was working with one of the organizations to develop product manufacturing standards, and that was 2 years ago. And I don't know that anything ever happened, but yeah, they were. It wasn't GMP. What's the other one? ISO standards that they were developing. An ISO. They already have lab standards, but they were actually developing ISO standards for e-liquid manufacturer.
Oh, that is the thing now in Europe. That's part of TPD compliance for liquid manufacturing. That is available, but getting your hands on the documentation and the actual framework for it, it's gazillions of dollars. Gazillions. But
I mean, I know the guy that was the chairman of the organization, the chairman of the group that put that together. He was on the show. I mean, Arnaud was the chairman of that of that committee.
Well, we might need to speak. We might need to speak to him and put him in touch with
Arnaud Durallet.
Yeah, Australian vape industry retail. Yeah,
I think Paul's 100% right. The time for action is now. Not November, not early December, not when it's coming up to the end, definitely not in January. We need to start the ball rolling right now and figure out what we want to do, what we want to demand, not ask for, but demand. Maybe there'll be a compromise in the end, but you never ask for less than you want.
Nope.
And we need to get this going now. And one of the things that I don't think that our government, our health department, have their heads around is that they view this as a smoking cessation product, which is fine. It's what it is, but it's also a relapse prevention product.
Maintenance therapy.
Yeah, that is a valid way to look at this. It's a valid way to treat this. And as long as they're looking at as smoking cessation, they're always going to be looking at you having an end date. They're going to make this as punitive as possible so that you cut down. You're talking about having to go to the doctor every couple of weeks to grab your prescription and then having to order it and stuff. We need to realize that if someone's on a lifelong course of e-liquid to prevent relapse, that's unwieldy. You wouldn't ask someone to do that for their cancer meds or their Parkinson's meds. You deliver it to them because it's easier. The same goes with this. We've got to make it simpler. Got to make it easier, and got to recognize the fact that some people, we've just got the bug. It's just in us. So we need to prevent it from kicking in. We've just got to prevent our own relapse, and that may be lifetime. There's nothing wrong with that.
Is that a standard for patches and gums that you have to have an end date as an argument?
When they were a prescription, they were. When there was when they were under prescription, they were the original package even told you had to stop. But so you're not if you what is it 3 months? I think they were originally 3 months, and then you were done. You started here, you got the smaller patch, then the even smaller patch, and then that was it. That was 3 months done. And then when they went to OTC, that's when they removed that language that said that you can only use these products for 3 months. That I mean, but yeah, that there was original language when it was a prescription that's the way it worked.
Right, 90 days step down. But is that the standard for you guys now for those? Okay.
No, not at all. I had a scary phone
OTC. There's nobody to stop you.
Charlie McCracken in the chat there says, let's try and get them to acknowledge THR for a start, which I agree. No. Let's get that acknowledged. That is important. But acknowledging that and then putting in a punitive framework that forces us to drop out after X amount of weeks is not enough.
Nope.
Getting someone to switch from vaping or smoking to vaping and then saying you have a 3-month end date, that's not going to work.
No.
I had a scary phone call yesterday from somebody, and this blew my mind. Someone that's been trying to give up the cigarettes now for 5 years has only recently found out about vaping. And every time they get the urge to have a cigarette, they have half a Chantix. And I went, are you fucking joking? God. I said, hang on a second. For the last 5 years, so if you go out and you have a couple of drinks and you then go home and you feel like smoking half a pack of cigarettes, I'll have half a Chantix and then I'll go to bed. And I said, how long have you been doing this for? And she said, about 5 years. I went, does your doctor know about this?
Where are you getting those Chantix?
That's who's prescribing them. I went, can I have the doctor's name, please? Because that doctor needs to be thrown under a bus.
That doctor needs struck.
I've never heard anything more ludicrous. And I have a very good friend, and she's a nurse, and she was the one that passed her over to me. And I went, and then I rang her and I said, is this for real? And she said, yeah, it is, because we're actually quite scared. That's why I wanted her to speak to you. We're prepping her for surgery next week. And I went, wow.
No.
And you're telling me that you've got this 5-year period where whoever this doctor is has been prescribing Chantix and she just takes them willy-nilly, like half at a time? I said, the fuck's going on?
There's all sorts of problems with that. I mean, the oh my God. I mean, the taking half a Chantix every time you want a cigarette, you're actually reaching certain critical levels in your blood with
your blood chemistry's fucked.
And
not only that, I mean, you don't like the idea of Chantix, but it's supposed to be like the pill every day on clockwork, so you have a constant level.
Yeah.
But here you've got 3 days where I didn't think about it, so I didn't bother, and then 2 days were really, really tough. So I took what was that, 1.5 Chantix those 2 days, and then I was off for a couple of days. It's up and down. So you're saying every time I feel like having a cigarette, I take the chance that I might slaughter my family.
That's what I would. I mean, that's what it did to me. Like, it altered my brain chemistry to the point where I wasn't the same person. And I already have a bad temper. Usually it's words, but that actually made me physically violent, and scary. And I just can't fathom that.
That's only one of the horror stories that's come to me in the last week. I've received emails that have been passed on to me through different people. And I'm going, why isn't any of this being documented? Why isn't this being brought out into the open now? And then I get told why. Because they're scared. There's people that are too scared to approach their doctor for a prescription for nicotine.
Absolutely.
And say, I want to give up using vaping. But they're too afraid to speak to their doctor. They just go, I've started smoking again. Can I have, one of those scripts to help me stop again?
Mm-hmm.
So what are they doing in the background? Are they stockpiling this type of stuff? What is there? What is Chantix going to be the next drug on a street corner? I fucking hope not.
How many children are actually going to get that?
I'm flabbergasted.
Well,
Wow.
how do you think I feel? You know, this side of my brain that's all about the chemistry and everything that goes into liquid manufacturing is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other side of the brain, which is like really worried about this person, going, I think you really need to speak to someone. I said, look, here's Colin's number. I think you should call him and organize something straight away. Here's his email address, everything. I'm sorry, but you really need some proper help. And I also need that doctor's name. I can't give you the doctor's name. I said, well, I need it. I'm sorry, but he's breaking his oath in what he's doing to you.
Wow.
Bad shit, dude. Bad shit.
And this is one story. One.
Yeah, that blew me away. And some of the messages I've been getting on Twitter about here in Australia. And then I was in a Zoom conversation with a group before I came on the show, and I'm now hearing that liquid deliveries are now being held up by customs as well. And I went, whoa. So obviously border security never got the memo, and already packages are being held up. And anyone that but anyone that hears the replay and hears this part, reach out to one of us and say, well, our package was held up for X amount of time. Because we need to know, and we need to correlate whether or not the AFP and Border Force have actually got the memo from Greg Hunt, because obviously things aren't working already.
Right. I actually saw somebody say, I don't know who offhand, if I ordered it and it comes after the 1st of July before the change, am I going to be fined? And
we had people in the chat room that were in Australia last week that said, I ordered stuff like a month ago. It's still not here. If it comes after July 1st,
then maybe that's
I'm not going to get my shed, or it's going to get seized. Or
I've got a package sitting at LAX. Was ordered it's in my wife's name, was ordered 2 months ago, just sitting there. So we have no idea when that's coming through. I don't do them that often, but it's a pre-filled pod system sitting at LAX that they sent out for me 2 months ago in my name
to be reviewed. Yeah.
So these have been sent. These are out. They're sitting, in an airport hangar. There's a whole bunch of those big wheelie bin things filled with packages, and they're in there somewhere. There's no way you can call them back. There's no way to stop them. This was, good faith before the law changed. Better believe the past week I've been panicking. Yeah. What if these turn up in a month or 2 months? And literally, that's 2 fines. That's $440,000.
Right. Yeah.
That's our house.
Paul held up 5 bottles of liquid nicotine last week on the show, and that's $1 million. It's $1 million. If he, crazy shit.
Oh, if they if they opened the box of pods and decided to find me one for each pod, and there's 20 pods in there.
All right.
Whew.
That's the other thing. Nicotine warnings on packages. If this had gone through on the 1st of July, anything that has a nicotine warning on a package, or this product contains nicotine, they could destroy that. So hardware effectively would have been destroyed under that rule.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it quite clearly states this product contains nicotine.
Yep.
What the hell? They didn't think real hard when they put this together.
Well, no. They knew. I think they knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew that, as worded, with the infrastructure they have in place, what they were doing was a de facto ban.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shadow ban, and that was the intent all along.
I completely. I'm not in Australia. Yeah. The only knowledge I have of Greg Hunt and the Therapeutic Goods Administration is from research online and watching the man talk on TV and in interviews on the radio. And that, to me, he knew exactly what it was amounting to, and literally, that's what his plan was.
That's why I said the things he's quoting from the States. are to make the public feel that they're being protected. The fact that he said, oh, there will be a pathway, you can get prescriptions, you can still do that, was to make the public feel like we would still be served.
Oh, he's being fair. He's being fair.
Exactly. But in reality, he knew all along.
Because they're not going to bother to research to figure out that they don't have a pathway.
Yeah. See, to pass a full ban means Parliament. To pass a full ban national-wide means getting everyone on the floor and hammering this through. This is a new law. But to abuse a law that currently exists to effectively create a shadow ban, that's something that he found in his favor. Right now, he's got special powers because of COVID. He was given COVID superpowers. He gets to do things, and he's just taking advantage of that.
Well, Cuomo did the same, or tried to do the same thing, and obviously that didn't work for him. So, I mean, he tried to put it through in a budget, and there was a court, and the judge struck it down, and then they pushed it through, at 3:00 in the morning, and basically said, if you're not here to vote when we vote for this, that's the same as a yes vote.
But that's what they've done here the whole time, regardless of any which way we've tried to consult the government. They just do things their own way. And right now, with an ultra right-wing Liberal government that we have in play, we're not getting very far very quickly. They're more interested in the mining lobby. They're more interested in the pharmaceutical lobby. And under COVID, I've never seen so many new medications and drugs and treatments put through under Hunt's watch than any other government. Never. I've never seen this amount go through as fast as it has.
Lots of money.
Well, quick, no one's paying attention. Shove it through.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching everything that this Muppet's been up to in the background recently for the last 6 months. Under COVID, he's pushed through, I think it's either 6 or 8 new cancer type drugs. 2 of them are untested, and he's fast-tracked them into the country, so they'll just kill off a few more older people, as he obviously wants to do. Other than that, some of the other treatments that he's putting through, I agree with him. For we've been asking for them for years. But when you put something in front of him that will actually save lives, he's not interested. Not once in any interview, right, has he ever said anything about THR in any way, shape, or form. Never.
No American health group has ever said anything about THR either. So
okay. Here's the real kicker to all of this, that it's been glazed over by a few of the people, and when you put the numbers in front of them, it's quite astronomical. Currently, they're gonna get around $17 billion a year in tobacco taxes. Now, tag on another $6 billion to that, and you have the complete Medicare budget. Bada bing.
Right.
That's a hell of a lot of money. Right? So, and out of that 17 billion, I think it's around 200 million is spent Australia-wide on quit campaigns, but no THR.
Right.
You can go to the doctor, and you can walk into a supermarket here. As long as you're 12 or you look 12, you can walk up and you can grab a packet of Nicorette off the shelf. You can walk through the self-checkout here, and you've got a spray or you've got some gum. Yep. That's been turning up now in kids' school bags. The spray. They think it's mint breath spray. They've been stealing it from their parents as well. And then you wonder, halfway through the day, this kid thinks, yeah, this is minty. I like mint. Wonder halfway through the day why the kid's spinning out and falling over because he's been dosing himself on Nicorette spray. But that's not being spoken about ever.
No.
So where's the logic in any of this right now? It sucks.
Logic? There's This is politics. There's no logic in politics.
Well, if you wanted logic, why are all NRTs in Australia? They are what are they exempt from scheduling? Exempt from scheduling, which means that you can sell them anywhere, any store. Correct. Like doesn't matter if you have a dress store, you could go wholesale sell yourself some Nicorette and hang it in the front window. It's fine. Doesn't matter. No restrictions. Like I said, 12 and up. That's it. That's the only restriction to it.
Is that because I threw a tweet at somebody, and I don't know who offhand, in Sweden in 2016, Sweden said nicotine is not medicinal because it doesn't treat a disease. And I forget how it's worded offhand. I'd have to look at it. I can't find it on this browser. Is that why nicotine patches, gums, etc. are sold everywhere? Is because it doesn't treat anything?
But if that were the case, the nicotine itself would not be on the schedule, or shouldn't be on the schedule, and therefore e-liquid would be fine because it's non-medicinal. It's not under their aegis. But they still have the Schedule 7. They're planning on Schedule 4. Schedule 4 is does require prescription, needs to be dispensed in a pharmacy, and requires guidance. And
cigarettes are also available on every corner, and they're not scheduled in.
Yeah, exempt from scheduling.
Yeah, just we got listeners and we got people that may or may not know about Australia any better than here.
And the other really interesting part is, I'm not a fan of IQOS. I've looked at the chemistry on it and the science behind it. Yes, it is harm reduction. I'm not going to take that away from it. Chemicals are still there. The government also said no to the IQOS system here as an NRT. Right?
I'm not a fan of the IQOS as a concept. I admit it's harm reduction, but I can't see why. Like in that case, you've got two what are they called? Prior works. I mean, if it's tobacco, well, you can sell pipes and tobacco and cigars and all that. So why can't you sell an IQOS? If it's an NRT, well, that's not exempt from scheduling. That's allowed. So why can't you sell an IQOS? Regardless of what you think of vaping, why can't you sell an IQOS?
Well, they threw that under the bus as well. Won't allow that.
It's hypocritical.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never tried the IQOS. Lots of people have. I've talked to people that said that they hated it. Here's the thing: if it works, if all the science, I've read the science. All the science shows that it is indeed harm reduction. If it works for people to get them off of something that will kill them 50% of the time, I know that cigarettes have a success rate of killing people 50% of the time. And it's going to save people. I'm not going to sit here and advocate for it, but I'm not going to shit on it either. I mean, I'm a vapor. I do like tobacco. Like I'm one of the rare. Kevin and I are tobacco vapors. We like tobacco flavors. Both of us do. Where the rarity, and I might have liked the IQOS if I had found that first. But yeah, I keep hearing
I've tried it. I've tried it, and it's just like a Marlboro, 100%.
I would have liked it then.
And I would have gone right to it. I would guaranteed. So what Legion said was it is a form of harm reduction.
Yeah.
It's between a cigarette and a patch. You're in the middle. We're at the bottom by the patch. They're at the top near a cigarette in what, Paul, I know you have the chemical background to explain to others, but had, like Patrick said, if I'd have seen that first today, let's say, I've heard of that. Oh, what a familiar taste. Oh, look at that.
And I can guarantee you. Yeah. I can guarantee you if the tobacco companies had come out with the IQOS 25, 30 years ago and said, look, not harm reduction, not cessation. It's another way to smoke.
Yep.
It's just a different way to smoke. Look, it's high tech. Yeah. Nobody in the world prior to vaping the beginning of this whole spin of anti-smoking that the world has would have floated through easily all around the world. No one would have had a thought about it. And then it would have gotten grandfathered in with everything else as things did.
Well, there was a heat not burn cigarette on the market prior to the grandfather date. It was called the Eclipse, and it's actually owned by, I think, British American has it, and therefore, I mean, it's not anything like the heat not burn cigarettes that are available now. It looked almost exactly like a regular cigarette. And it didn't sell then. It didn't work. People weren't quite onto it, and it didn't really do well. But they still own it. They still own the technology. They still own the IP. And a year ago they did a story. Hey, we're upgrading it, and we're going to bring it back out because it's technically before the deadline, so we can bring this out without having any sort of jumps that we have to go through.
Yeah. And we
highlight Charlie's comment. That is right on point. How the fuck?
Yeah, we talked about that last week. We highlighted that.
Yeah, I know, but that's mind blowing.
Yeah,
absolutely mind blowing.
Milk is not beef, people. Period.
Okay, point taken.
I've never cut into a steak and had milk squirt out of it. That's all I'm saying.
But see, that's the thing. Milk is not beef, and nicotine is not tobacco, and that's where they've worded that. Tobacco is protected, it's covered, it's exempt. Yep. Nicotine is not, and so they want to treat it like tobacco. And stores cannot show products, and we have to have covers over things, and only kids can go in or packaging go in because it's like tobacco. It's under the Tobacco Act, but at the same time, it's not tobacco. Therefore, it's a scheduled poison. It's number 7. It's one of the worst. You can't have it. You can't even bring it in now, et cetera, et cetera. They're trying to have it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So in the United States, it's easy for us to accept and understand why the government protects tobacco sales in the United States, because we have this thing called the Master Settlement Agreement. We've talked about it in depth here. The United States, each state, the 46 states, the 46 states that are original signatories to the Master Settlement Agreement, and the other 4, all 50 states are addicted to tobacco money because of the Master Settlement Agreement and their other, sundry legal agreements with the tobacco companies.
Yeah.
But we don't I don't myself quite understand why the Australian government is protecting cigarettes the same way that America does, unless there's some sort of financial thing that, do they have their own Australian master settlement type agreement, or is it just
they created their own? They created a syntax and they set a schedule for boosting it. And it's a really, really strange thing. If you look at the statistics, every time smoking levels fall, tax rates rise, and no money gets lost. Government is guaranteed to get the same income.
So that's like a Ponzi scheme, is it not?
Pretty much. Eventually, there will be one smoker who's paying $17 million per pack. But other than that, there's no actual MSA ingredient or.
It's just a tax. It's just so here in the States, the tobacco companies don't care about the Master Settlement Agreement, because when they increase the price to cover the cost of the tax gets turned over onto the consumer, and the cigarette company is not out of any money.
Exactly. It's why I've been saying all along that in the States, big tobacco is not your enemy. As a vape community, they're not the ones out to fuck you. And they're not the ones. I mean, people think that big tobacco are telling states what to do. They don't need to. It's a system that is set up in their favor that they can be hands-free. They didn't want the MSA. They didn't start that. The states started it. And now the states have their own incentive to act without direction. They are incentivized to protect big tobacco.
Yep.
Well, to be perfectly clear, the attorney generals of the 46 states that were involved in the master settlement agreement, they sat in a room with the tobacco industry players that are signatories to the master settlement agreement and negotiated the language to the master settlement agreement so that everybody got what they wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly what happened. And they still do continue to spend millions of dollars lobbying in DC and in the state capitals of every state. I know quite a few tobacco company lobbyists that also represent different industries. And to be fair, everybody got what they wanted except for the people, the health advocates didn't get. I mean, obviously the legacy and all those organizations that got funds from that master settlement agreement, the initial payments to legacy and the Truth Initiative was formed as a byproduct of the master settlement agreement, and they turned around and took those lump sum payments at the beginning that they got from the master settlement agreement, made massive investments all across, on Wall Street. That's where they don't get money from the MSA anymore, but they made such great investments and they made so much. I mean, that is a multi-billion. I mean, their war chest is huge. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, everybody got what they wanted. So there's no reason for the tobacco companies to be, controlling anything because everybody built that agreement so that everything remains in homeostasis. Everything remains where it's supposed to be for everybody to get what they want.
Well,
that's what the MSA is. It's a protecting tobacco fund.
And on top of it, they get to stigmatize smokers, give them products that don't work 30 times or more in a row most of the time. And they get to pretend that they're pointing at the tobacco companies as well. So they get to demonize two things at one time.
Yeah. Now, pharma, on the other hand, is the enemy. Pharma didn't get signed on to the master settlement agreement, so they actually have a financial reason. Plus, they're going, like he said, they're going to sell you a product that they have not done any innovation or change in 25 plus years. The technology for the patch is the same that it is now as what it was when it was introduced.
And the research,
the lozenge, none of that stuff has changed.
The research is extremely Glansian or Chapman-ish, whatever you like.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, those guys have not spent $1, and they're everything they sell. They're not putting anything into product advancement. They're just putting that in their pocket.
They, in fact, have found already in my blog somewhere, I know where to go, but I don't have it in front of me, that increased nicotine can help. So let's pretend you're on a 12. You should be on a 24. Well, that's familiar to us in levels. And I read that and my jaw just dropped because I never thought of putting 2 patches on my arm. And they did this in a controlled group, and it's a real study or whatever you guys call it. And I was astounded that higher levels of nicotine are safe, they said, and they work. And I'm like, well, I can't wait for Nicotrol to start doubling their stuff. Not because they're not ever going to do that ever. And you're never going to have it
for it to not work. Because every smoker decides to quit. They buy some stuff. They slap it on themselves. 2 weeks pass. They're back to smoking. And 6 months later, I think I'll try it again. Guess what? There's only 2 or 3 companies that are making these things. So it doesn't matter what brand you buy. They're all making money. You will come back. If you are desperate to quit smoking and this is your path, you will come back time and time and time again to continue to put money in their pockets. That's why they hate us. Because the moment we start vaping, they've lost us.
We took control of our own destiny, and they didn't like that.
Yeah. To put into a comparison what you're saying about MSA and money, just so you understand why they are so protective of tobacco here, you can buy a pack of cigarettes. Okay, you've got the MSA. Every state collects their money. They're paying. The states are getting massive amounts of money from this, right? But you can buy a pack of cigarettes in California for what, $8-10?
No. I think Fig said 15 the last time we asked.
I thought his was lower. New York is around 15. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so $15 for a pack now, right? We're looking at somewhere between 35, 45. Fancy brands are 50, but let's say 35
for 20 cigarettes.
Yeah. And we've got a 12.5% increase coming in a couple of months, and then we've got another one. It's scheduled. These increases, they're 12.5% every time, and they are scheduled like clockwork to increase that money.
Twice a year.
You see Bill's tweet or Bill's comment, Patrick?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
The Australian government owns or invested into tobacco plantations.
Correct. Yeah. Because in 2006, when the Australian government bought back all the tobacco growing licenses here, there are two plantations, right? And I know who owns them now. I've done a little bit of digging. It might be owned by the government, but it's all being controlled by one company hiding down in Tasmania. We come back to this nasty little company. They've moved into opium's their prime production. Second production now is cannabis. The third and final is tobacco. And if they're the ones that are going to be manufacturing said nicotine, they can fuck right off right now. I don't want to bar it because they're owned by Johnson & Johnson.
I was going to ask if it was Dow. Bastard.
No, it's Legion knows who I'm talking about, and this is the key component. And if Hunt's done a sweetheart deal with these Muppets, that's a monopoly. That's all three. We'll take away your pain. We'll get you high. Here's some nicotine.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really hard pill to swallow.
Always remember, it doesn't matter what brand is on the packet because it all trickles.
Everything's OEM anyway.
Yeah. If everybody stopped smoking in Australia, would they bankrupt Australia? As an example. No? Okay.
No, because the other thing is China's financing everything.
Yeah. Apparently, we've sold half of our farming, like our major farming land, off to China, and we've also handed over a wharf in a very strategic part of Australia.
Oh.
It's quite scary. The other thing is that not a lot of people talk about is that we still have to pay, like, the profits that come from tobacco sales here, or the profit side of it still goes back to the master company or to the parent company.
Yeah.
So we're helping to pay the MSA. We're helping to do this. We're helping to do that. But all I can say is I hope what I just said about that Tasmanian company, I'm not going to name them, but if that's the case and they're going to give all three across the board and Johnson & Johnson's got their thumb up Greg Hunt's ass, then we've got a serious problem. That's monopoly, and then on top of that, that's corruption. Up the wazoo.
Oh, I do want to stop you guys for a minute. Hey, Kevin.
What?
I did want to point out before the end of the show, the YouTube channel, because the YouTube is just sort of an afterthought. We just started it because I had it. But anyway, one of the people that was watching the show did request that we stop using the name Karen.
I heard that last week
because it was offensive to her because her name was Karen. So I do want to formally apologize for Kevin.
Yep.
Because Kevin's the one that uses it all the time. It's all Kevin's fault. So all hate mail needs to go to Twitter at vaping it. Because
I've got a few more.
It wasn't me. It was Kevin. I'm
you were encouraging me though. Lab works.
So, I do want to apologize to all Karens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Here, let me get the right one. Yeah, there. Dallas says that Lab works. That's Paul is the male Karen.
So I have
he
to
doesn't have the right hair. He doesn't have the right hairstyle. But I, just to get that out before the end of the show and before I forgot to do it. Sorry, Karens. Paul, you have complained to customer service, and customer service has acted.
And to all Brads, I apologize to all Brads because I think that's the one I used.
No, Chad. Chad is
Chad.
Right. Chad is the accepted
I think,
insult.
I think Paul needs to make himself a wig. That traditional Karen haircut made out of tinfoil, but it's got to be tinfoil. A Karen tinfoil.
Now I can forward all emails that were complaining to me straight to you.
Fair enough.
Have you been told today, Kevin?
Have I what?
Have you been told today?
No. Go ahead.
Go fuck yourself.
Thank you very much. Where's my drink sign? There you go. Everybody drink. Now I'm going to get a Karen sign.
Oh, fuck's sake.
I have to say that when I got the alert that there was a message on YouTube, I was like, really? I mean, I just started the channel, and it's just sort of there for. I mean, most people watch this on Facebook. If not on Facebook, then the replays that are the podcast, the audio onlys get a lot of listens. That's where we actually started, was an audio podcast. So we do have quite a lot of traffic on there. But then when I was like, okay, well, let's just go ahead and add it on YouTube since I have the channel and this program allows me to do it, I sort of wasn't paying attention. But I got an email and I'm like, oh, somebody watched it. I was excited. And then I read it and I'm like, Kevin.
Tisk. And I blamed it on Fig. I thought it was Fig in disguise.
No, you're the one that you sort of do it a lot. So
no, I thought Fig had sent you the email.
No, it was a woman. It was actually on the YouTube channel. It was a comment on the YouTube channel.
You don't have a legitimate YouTube channel until you have your first complaint.
There we go.
Well, then I have a legitimate channel now.
So from now on, it's going to be Paul's. Stop acting like Paul's.
Fuck off.
No, my background. That's not snow. That's a wave. That's a traditional Japanese painting of a tidal wave. Jennifer asked about my background and in the windows.
So do you guys in Australia, Paul, I'm sure you do, and Legion, I assume you do. I'm going to hit a share screen because I don't know where Patrick's going unless Patrick has a
I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Crap. Okay.
Do you know what you're doing? Do you know how to do this? Okay.
I don't know how to make it bigger, so you're going to have to forgive me.
You rub it to make it bigger.
I don't know how to do it on this screen. I have no idea where to go. Plus is a new tab. So anyway, the highlight that I'm using is if you take, for example, what Simon Chapman 6, who I've been blocked by from Australia, and what he says concerning evidence and integrity and authenticity of an issue, you'd think, what a swell guy, because that's what Paul believes. He's a swell guy. So he wrote this article saying that you should always respect the evidence, and if the evidence changes, so should you. For the listeners that can't see this, experts are fine, but they're not a living thing. That ordinary people, that's you and me, Patrick, you and me. And,
I'm not ordinary.
We can make amazing advocates, and we should work with them far more. They bring a compelling authenticity to the issue. And then, knowing that he's such a swell guy, and he's been in this since the 70s, I also have what Clive has written called "Do not read or discuss this, and under no circumstances should you." Yeah. So when you find it in the chat in a minute, you'll probably just want to go to the one that I'm going to show Clive on, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, the Clive one is fire. Like we've showed this one before. I love this one.
Yeah. So when you guys read the one from Clive, please don't share it. It's not supposed to be read or discussed under any circumstances by anyone. And I think you'll enjoy it. And then just remember, don't share it, because this goes backwards to this was in 2016 that he wrote this, and it linked what he had was a discussion paper that included Becky Freeman, James Kite, these are unfamiliar names to me, Nicholas Buckley, Blythe O'Hara, Professor Numbnuts himself, Simon Chimpman, Scott Walsberger, Professor Bill Ballou, Adrian Bauman, and for Intergovernmental Committee on Drugs. So I'll shut up about that. But this is kind of the history where the government was playing around with the experts, and they decided what they were going to do probably long before this ever happened. And this is the catalyst, in my opinion. So that's all I had for that part.
While you're there on Twitter, is there another like tutorial thing this week that you can? Is there a feature that we didn't know about that you know about that you could highlight? Because last week we did was it bookmarks was 2 weeks ago, and then what was last week? Last week was another thing that I didn't know even existed until you showed it on Twitter.
I forgot already.
Yeah,
I really did forget. We can go.
You're supposed to be the Twitter genius, and we're supposed to relay to the listeners and viewers a new Twitter thing every week. That's the only reason I let you come.
All right, fine. I'll go to share screen. We'll go to. This is where I fumble because I don't do this enough. Where is my Twitter? Okay, so we'll go to my Twitter. If you want to know on a desktop, I don't know how to do this on the phone. If you go to more and you click more, you've got topics, moments, Twitter ads, which I've never even looked at. Analytics is fun only for you, really, because it doesn't matter. When you click on analytics, it shows you you can look at your
that brought your analytics up on a different screen. So you have to unshare the one that you're sharing and share the one with the analytics on it.
See, I don't like this.
See, because I don't share, because you shared a tab instead of sharing I have everything that I'm sharing on a completely different monitor. So you need a new monitor. You need two monitors.
That's what I want. So it should be up. Okay, so this is my account, and let me get back to that screen. At the very, very top, your home, your tweets, and more. I don't even know what's in more. Videos and conversion tracking. So I'm assuming that's the paid version. I don't think I've ever looked at that. So tweets in 28 days, I've done 1,438 tweets, 6,000 impressions. Profile visits have been 1,405.
That's not 6,000. That's 606,000.
606,000. Sorry, K. Followers are 13,759. It says 13,8, so they round up.
Yeah.
And it shows your mentions. It shows your top mention, your top tweet, which I won't say out loud because now I'm in trouble for that.
See?
So this is my pal for my top media tweet, me and Jerry. Jerry's my friend. Just like Chimpman is Paul's friend. So now if you go to tweets, the second tab at the top, you can then look at your impressions again, and it'll show you your chart. It'll show you
5,000 impressions.
Right. So it shows you tweets. This is some of the later tweets that I've done. It shows you impressions at the time. This one is top tweets, which I kind of like it because it shows me how far it's gone. And again, I'm not going to repeat that because I just got reprimanded. But the impressions are 48,004. Stop laughing. People have engaged with it 108 times. So if you shut it. So if you click on it, it will show you the tweet, but you can't go to it unless you click the tweet that I tweeted over, which we did discuss last week. That's an example. And then this one's 19,000. This one's right down to 5. So somebody liked it and somebody else hit it, and it's been seen that many times. That doesn't mean people read it. They probably scrolled past it. But you're looking at numbers that I don't really care about necessarily personally. Fig a few weeks ago showed he had let's say it's 1,000 tweet or 1,000 impressions, but he tweeted 7 times, and I had 10,000 impressions, and I tweeted 100 times. So what are you laughing at? Are you flipping me around?
See, I'm just glancing over at mine real quick. I have 33,000 impressions.
Okay, but you're not,
and you're like 600,000 impressions, and I only tweeted 53 times though.
Exactly. There you go. So the law of average is when you're doing it, who sees it, who thinks it's funny, who thinks it's informational, whatever that can be. So I was with Brent last night on RegWatch. If you like, you can watch it on regwatch.com. And Cindy, I can't think of her last name offhand, was on briefly, and she's a producer as well. And she said that I was somebody that she followed not long ago, 6-8 months ago, I think, and she gave a little insight to what her view of me was as a new person and how evil I can be, but I'm also very informative when I'm slapping Jerry around as the example. I'm actually showing him facts.
But Jerry never muted you. He muted me.
I think he muted me. I don't think he hasn't blocked me. I don't think
he hasn't blocked anybody. I don't think.
No, I don't.
I did get blocked this week, though. I did get blocked.
By who?
It was somebody that at first they slammed Nick Grim Green,
okay.
And then Chauncey, Dr. Gardner, got blocked. So then I schooled them with facts in a very nice way. I didn't use bad language. I didn't do anything. All I did was bring information and links and information, and I got blocked.
So in that spirit,
and then Smoke Free Taz got mad at me too.
Yeah,
I'm not scared of them either. I was a smartass to them, but Cindy made a comment at the beginning that made me feel good, and it gave me a different perspective.
Oh, I remember now. It was right. It's some guy who was a writer, and it was. I'm trying to find the tweet now. @right_call.
And I'll make Paul cringe.
And his signature was "Words are my playground."
I think that's Dave Barham, but that's my opinion.
And
really?
Words are my playground. Got hurt by words, so then he blocked me.
Show the tweet.
And me. I got dragged into that as well because he went after me and gaslighted me. Kevin Price and a few of the others picked up on it. Yeah, that's him. Muppet.
Yeah. So first he blocked. Well, this is mine, but he went after Chauncey Gardner. He went after, this is Dr. Charlie Gardner, Grim Green first, and then he went after. I took screenshots, so I think this is the one that got me in trouble, was because I said words are my playground. @rightcall is definitely playing with words, but assuredly doesn't actually know what they mean. And then I tagged Charlie Gardner. Maybe we should use crayons to communicate with him, because he was blasting Athra for being a big tobacco funded, org, because they get money from vaping companies. It's not the same thing. And, I tried to be helpful. I tried to show him information. This is a tweet. This is the one in response to him blocking Grim. I said, his response was, remember when flavored beer killed more than 60 people? Nor do I. So I actually did some numbers, and I actually found out that 2,359 minors died in 2019 in just the States. This is just America, due to alcohol use. And I said, I bet @rightcall won't admit to flavored vodkas and schnapps being popular with kids. Tagged Grim Green. Probably won't even acknowledge that CDC admitted that vitamin E acetate and THC vape pens were responsible for the fake vape epidemic. So then I went back a little bit later, and I got this. It said that you are blocked. You are blocked.
Yeah, but he's based here in Sydney, Australia.
But he's a writer, supposedly that, and he wrote in his thing, "Words are my playground."
I don't understand how people don't understand if someone is abusing you and it's hurtful, block them. If someone is stalking you and they're a physical danger to you and you don't want them to know what's going on, block them. If someone has a different opinion to you and you block them, you are a fucking coward.
Right. Exactly.
Like, even if you don't want to change your mind, it's fine. I don't want to change my mind. We'll draw a line under the conversation, walk away. Keep hitting me with stuff, I'll ignore it. Right. If I block you, I'm a fucking coward.
Yeah, and this guy is a fucking coward. And he claims, like I said, that words are my playground. But he wasn't able to use words. As a professional writer, you would think that he would be able to use words.
But you go back to something else there. Like when you showed his profile, right?
No, I didn't. Well,
proclaimed writer.
Yeah, no, I called him that. I called him a self-proclaimed writer. I mean, I actually have published magazines. I've written hundreds of articles. You know, I showed the issue 1 of the Vaping Advocate, which was the magazine that I used to publish. It's right here. You know, I've written entire magazines where I was the only contributor in some of these magazines. So, I mean, I know how to put words together. I mean,
Amanda, stop enticing me.
She's trying to make you say Karen again, aren't you?
Something.
Where is it? Come on.
It's in the chat.
Where's your sign? Oh, shit. Bruni, you're going to get into trouble
now,
for that.
I apologize again to all the Karens. This was not me. This was Amanda.
This wasn't me.
You can follow Amanda at Amanda Wheeler on Twitter.
So the bottom line for Twitter tonight, and my final thought of it is, if you get on a line like I have, you'll find that I'm being a complete prick without swearing and without calling somebody like Glance a fucktard.
I have never used curse words on Twitter, ever.
I rarely will, and it's in response to each other. I don't do it to the professionals because someone like Dr. Glover is going to see that. And that cannot happen. And Cindy, I did not know, was also an attorney when she followed me. I thought she was, but I wasn't sure. She's changed her profile read. And she followed me. And when she spoke, I was like, wow, that's exactly why I do what I do. It reminded me of why I do what I do the way I do it. It doesn't matter how many hits you have. If you can affect someone enough to go, okay, I'm going to follow this guy because he does show facts and science, while I embarrass Chimpman or I embarrass Glance or whatever. They've blocked me a long time ago, but that's kind of the point of Twitter, because their followers will see it as well. And you may not change their mind ever, like Legion said. They may never change their freaking mind. They're going to block you. But anything you've put under there, if it's fuck this and fuck that, you're of no use. If you're showing things that are real, at least you have a choice.
It's something I always stress when I'm on my own live streams or whatever. I'm talking about advocacy, and we can't let things stand. We see bullshit being posted in response to news articles, whether it's in tweets or on Facebook or wherever. We can't let them stand. We need to answer them, but we always have to remember that 9 times out of 10, whatever you're posting is not for the person you're replying to. You're not going to change their mind.
Hardly ever.
You are leaving a trail for the future. Other people will come to this. They'll stumble across it. And if you can stay calm, if you can be informative, if you can be educational, and you can get your point across clearly, and the other person is getting angry, you win. You literally win. You come across so much better. You may change other minds in the future. And keep your arguments to people civil and factual. Yeah. And leave it at that. Unless you can corner them in an alley.
Yeah. So at the end of our show, we always do a parting thoughts sort of thing. I'm going to let you guys decide who goes first. Just take a couple minutes and give your parting thoughts.
Legion's the guest. You're up.
Once.
Eeny, meeny, miny,
my God. You're going to make me go first. Okay, number one, parting thought. The fight is not over. If you are in Australia, don't stop. Keep on top of things. Follow the calls to action. ATHR.org, legalize vaping.com.au, etc. They are your best places right now to follow calls to action and to be on top of what's going on. Other than that, follow me. Follow my YouTube channel. Once this is done, I got to get back to work. But tomorrow, Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Australia time, we have the Aussie Vape Show. This week we have Scott Hooten from Hootsy Liquid. He is coming to join us and talk about all sorts of stuff. And yeah, that's literally it. Follow me, watch my shows, and don't stop fighting. Never give up.
And follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm really bad at Twitter, but I'm there.
You hang out with us, we'll fix you.
Hang out with Kevin. He's a freak on Twitter. It's all good.
Yeah.
Hit that retweet button. Just that's good. Tweet that. Tweet that. Tweet that. Tweet that. Tweet that.
That's just as good. That's just as good. You want to go, Paul? You want me to go?
No, I'll go. It's fine. Look, thank you to the worldwide vaping community for helping us over the past week. As Legion just said, this is only the start of the fight for us. If we're going to have changes made to what we're currently fighting, we're going to need everyone's help. We're going to need the science. We're going to need to absolutely bamboozle the government here with real facts and not bullshit. Outdated studies won't cut it. We would like a level playing field for all of us to play on here. We're not stupid. We're not a bunch of kids in this industry. If we were, we'd be borrowing our parents' credit card to try and do whatever we can to get whatever we can. When we were kids, we were all crafty little bastards. We all smoked, we all drank, we all did stupid shit. These days, we're a little bit older and wiser, and all we're trying to do is fight for our right to vape, and THR, or tobacco harm reduction, is a real thing. It's not a mystical creature. It's real. It helps people stay alive. When you hear stories of 50-year-olds with emphysema, I was diagnosed 6 years ago with it. That's why I switched over to this realm. I'm still here. I don't need oxygen. I can still breathe. I can still walk and talk. Please, give us a chance. And we would like to see combustibles gone and a level playing field for us. Nothing more, nothing less. We're not asking for the world on a silver platter. We just like it to be a little bit fairer. Enjoy, guys, and follow us all on Twitter, YouTube, any of the shows or the calls to action. And if we can help here in Australia with the fights in the United States, we will. And we have been doing it for a number of years now. So please and thank you. Big love to everyone. You're more than welcome.
Yep. Thank you both for coming on as usual, and always to Patrick. I'm gonna actually read one of my little memes that I did with what I put on my name. Louder, this fight is global. It is global. It's a less harmful alternative that we fight for ourselves and future people having a choice of less harmful product, period. Even if it is the patch, the gum, heat not burn, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Toothpicks, I don't care. When someone's ready to quit like you were, or accidentally, that's when it's time. And I did a little reminiscing, or I'll do a little reminiscing for it. If you told me back in May of 2013, I would watch my government lie, which is everybody's government now. I'd create a blog, I'd author a survey, I'd tweet like a madman, literally. I'd email and call local and state and federal officials, participate in state organization meetings, come to despise and distrust what I thought was the epitome of public health and government in my eye at the time, travel 6 hours to Milwaukee to see an hour-and-a-half movie with my wife, who thought I was crazy, to watch A Billion Lives, make friends around the country and worldwide, publicly challenge the claim of addiction to nicotine, which I think is half of our problem, join podcasts, become a member of THR for Life in UVA, travel 8 hours the other way to Washington, D.C. with my wife, who still thinks I'm crazy, to rally against my own government by protesting a ban of safer, less harmful alternative products because officials calling themselves public health demanding it. And then I witness humans I admire take a seat at the table with the President of the United States, a sitting president, defending a safer choice because my wife and I chose to quit smoking and professionals didn't like it. Well, I'd have told you that there should have never been a need for all of the above. So there you go. That's my final thoughts. I love you all.
So, we do this show. One of the things, this is Son of Liberty. I mean, that is our brand. That is our ideal, is we don't like it when people tell us what we can and can't do. So I'm gonna throw something up here on the screen because I think this is important for us all to understand. So when I did the tweet for this show, I created this graphic for the show to show that, here we are, we're flying the fucking skull and crossbones, we're cannons blazing, and, just to announce the show. And I got a response on this tweet. Paul shared it, and tagged somebody, but I got this tweet in here, and it says, in South Africa, we've not even seen a single cigarette sold in over 3 months. At least you guys are still able to buy smokes. So, Paul said that he wanted to see the end of combustible cigarettes. And I don't disagree with that, but I also feel like people should be able to make whatever choices they want to make. And if that means that they want to smoke, then that's their fucking choice. I obviously want them to have access to harm reduction tools, and I want them as a vapor and as somebody that has fought for this technology for a decade now. I want them in my heart of hearts to choose to vape, but I also don't want to stand in front of them and stand in their way of whatever they want to fucking do. I mean, that is their choice. I would hope that they choose something that doesn't kill them, but it's their fucking choice. Let them make their choice. I don't want them telling me that I can't choose vaping, and I sure as hell don't want them telling people how they can fucking live their life. Period. So, I want everybody to understand. Of course, I'm advocating for vaping. I vape. Vaping has changed my life. I've been vaping since 2010. I've been here for the whole fucking game almost. There's a handful of people that have been here longer than me, but I've been here the whole fucking time. And I don't want to feel like we're superior. We tend to do that. A lot of vapors do that. Well, you're stupid for still smoking. They're never going to fucking choose to quit if you demonize, attack them, and make them feel lesser than you. So be aware of that. We're here fighting. We've been fighting for the last week. We've been on Twitter. We've been educating, informing, trying to get the people of Australia to stand up, and they did. We didn't do that. We didn't, as Americans, we didn't affect the government of Australia. We affected the people to stand up for themselves. That's what we're here for. That's our job, is we're the town criers, ringing the bell through the fucking street saying there's something going on, guys. Look over here. There's a problem. That's what we do. We do that here in the States. If I'm in Texas and I see a problem in Montana, I'm going to get Matt Culley, who's in Montana, to come here. If there's a problem in New York, I'm going to get Vic, or I'm going to get somebody else that's from New York to come on here. If there's a problem in Florida, we got Nick, the godfather, the mod father, whatever you want to call him, the sexiest hair in vaping because he has no hair. We're going to have him on. That's our job, is to get people in the fight in those places and bring them here to inform people so that you guys can go out and proselytize and get more people involved in those areas. We're going to get, Kevin and I, didn't go on Twitter and inform or educate or change anyone's mind. Our job, and what I think we helped with, was to draw attention to the people that were on the ground and get them excited. That's our job. That's what we do. And I want everybody to realize we need to, Paul thanked us. No, thank you for standing up for your brothers and sisters in Australia. Thank Legion Vapes for doing what you do for the people that live in Australia. We have people that listen to this show all over the world. The Netherlands is going to be the next place. We have people that listen to the podcast in the Netherlands. We have literally, when we did the World Vape Day thing, we had people from India watching the show. We had people from Africa watching the show. South Africa is also another place that there's problems. Our job is to yell, and hopefully somebody will listen. So I love you guys. Lutz from New Zealand, thanks for coming. Bruni from Australia, thanks for coming. Shannon Brown from here in the States, she's from Missouri, thank you for coming. Leanna's from Vegas, thank you for coming. Everybody else that's in here, I'm not going to sit here and read everybody's name. I love you all. Thank you for coming. And just remember, this is not over. So, you have the weekend. When I'm done here, go, kiss your kids on the head if they're sleeping. Go, kiss your wife on the lips, and, go to bed and enjoy the weekend. The family time is yours. Monday, the war starts again. And, make sure your powder's dry and you're ready to go, because we're still at this. We're not going anywhere. So thanks. And just remember, we'll be back in a week, and I'm sure there'll be another fire that we got to put out. Peace.